Restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan back with Pat on this edition of Rising. And after Labor Day, Pat, the Jason Van Dyke murder trial begins with respect to the shooting and killing of Laquan McDonald. Of course, this week, Van Dyke spoke for the first time since the shooting 40 years ago now to the Chicago Tribune. And again, you have to understand this is part of a legal strategy, clearly was, but laid out his case in part, talked about how he prays for the McDonald family every day, talked about how that night that he shot and killed Laquan McDonald's the darkest day of his life, talked about that he never discharged his weapon in his 12 years as a Chicago police officer prior to that night, and that he thought he was a good cop, and that he believes that he did what he was trained to do the way he was trained to do it. Jury selection, as I said, begins after Labor Day, and that's an interesting conversation in and of itself, the decision by the Van Dyke legal team to choose a jury trial over a bench trial. And so concerns, of course, right now are being raised that if somehow Van Dyke is acquitted, and first-degree murder, so you're charging him with premeditation, that the city will go up in flames. And you have people who perhaps know more about this case because they're closer to Van Dyke than we are, who've publicly said, including Chicago FOP President Kevin Graham, Brian Warner from Police Survivors Network, who they believe Van Dyke will be acquitted and should be.
It's a very interesting case, Dan, because it's a conflation of all the angst that revolves around the alleged racism of cops, particularly in big cities. The legal issue for me with respect to Van Dyke is the 16 shots. Right, he shot him 16 times, and McDonald, he thought he had a knife. He didn't think he had a gun. So the force seems far beyond, in my view, what would have been necessary to stop this guy, although I wasn't there. The first-degree murder charge, I think convicting him on that would be a mistake. That would be a miscarriage of justice. People have to understand the circumstance that these police are in, the nature of what's going on in that moment, the pressure they're under, and things of that nature. So the idea that he decided in that moment, I'm going to kill this person, and I'm going to kill him because he's black. He's black, so I'm going to kill him, is just, to me, an absurdity. But did he use too much force, excessive force, things of that nature, secondary included offenses in the murder? I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out.
What about the choice of jury trial over bench trial? Now, the judge, there is a change of venue motion that has been filed, and the judge has deferred judgment on that motion until after the jury is selected, presenting the evidence that presented by the defense for Van Dyke in this includes a survey that finds 85% of Cook County residents have already made up their mind on the case and Van Dyke's guilt or innocence, and so that suggesting that it's not possible for him to get a fair trial in Cook County.
Well, it may not be possible for him to get a fair trial. It's an interesting motion. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I'm sure they're going to want to move to a less racially charged, racially diverse area. If they could move to a suburb that was, away from Chicago, I think they would. I would pick a jury trial over the bench trial for the reason that it gives you so many more options, right? Through voir dire, you can get jurors that can be sympathetic. You have the chance for a hung jury. You have chances for mistrials, and this can carry on and on and on. You get a judge who has the pressure of the world on him, and he's forced to make this decision, a political decision. I would never advise my client to be in that position. It's just too much risk that this judge will not want to not take on the pressure.
And also, the concerns that are being expressed about either way, I would say. I mean, when O.J. Simpson was acquitted, you had riots in celebration of his acquittal. But the idea that riots are going to break out, the city's going to burn down, other such pronouncements, if Van Dyke were to be acquitted, where's the civilian and police authorities to say, look, when this starts, we're going to just understand, regardless of the outcome, whether it's an outcome you want or an outcome you don't want, violence is not going to be an acceptable response in any case, and we will enforce the law, and we're not going to tolerate lawlessness, period, full stop. So just be on notice.
And let me tell you something, that better happen, Dan, if Mayor Mayo wants to be reelected, because this could turn into an unbelievable issue in the campaign heading into February and then April if there is civil unrest as a result of this trial, regardless of which way it goes.
Yeah, and maybe we'll find out even more, even if it is peaceful, regardless of the verdict. Maybe we'll find out more about Tiny Dancer's role in this from the beginning, including his cover-up of it, allegedly. I think pretty compellingly, allegedly, to push it off past the last election.